seeing the optometrist tomorrow.
My optometrist, he only works on my third eye, actually.
He charges $500 cold hard cash, doesn't take insurance.
He's kind of my yogi.
1, 2, 3, 4.
These boys only want the best stuff. They want the cream of the crop. They don't want none of that Michael Bay shit. They want the shit that pops. Oscar bait, black and white. Maybe something French. If it's got more than one explosion, honey, put that shit on the bench. Oscar Wieners, Oscar Wieners, Oscar Wieners. These boys are the Oscar Wieners.
Yum, yum.
Oscar Wieners.
Welcome to Oscar Wieners,
Yes.
the only show on the internet where Hollywood's biggest night's housekeeper is like weirdly obsessed with podcasts' ex-wife
Oh,
and burns down the house about it, literally.
it's starting to stress us out as the podcast, the new podcast. I'm Rebecca.
I'm Triceratops.
Triceratops? Nice.
Yeah.
Very good.
No, I'm Michael. He's Ander. This is a
Hey.
show, and this is a show where every week we talk about a Best Picture winner at random and trying to figure out if it's Best Picture worthy.
Nice.
And this week we're talking about the 1941 Best Picture winner, Rebecca, directed by Alfred Hitchcock.
The cock.
Alfred Cock.
The big cock.
The big cock, the big C. Joan Fontaine plays a nameless woman, but she's the
No
central
name.
character. She meets Laurence Olivier as George Fortescue Maximilian de Winter.
He goes by Max, correct?
Our main character, she calls him like Maxim, which I kind of like.
Yeah, that's pretty badass.
She meets him while she is working for this like older lady as her what?
Like just a shepherd or a
Yeah, like an
chaperone.
assistant. She like runs
Yeah.
errands for her. So they're like on vacation. Our main character meets Maxim, and he's just like a total dick to her.
Yeah.
He has like all this baggage that is like only alluded to. And she's like, you know what I want to do? I want to marry him when he
Yeah.
eventually proposes. And they do. He takes her back to Manderley.
Which is a
But
house.
which is his Maxim's estate. But his
Oops.
former wife Rebecca sort of haunts everybody on the grounds.
We should stipulate that there aren't any actual ghosts.
No.
There's no poltergeist afoot.
It's just that the character of Rebecca looms so large over the movie,
Yeah.
but she's never glimpsed.
No.
The main character, Joan Fontaine, suspects basically for like a majority of the movie that Maxim is in love with Rebecca.
The woman who's the main character, I've taken to calling her Sarah.
I like that. She seems like a Sarah.
Yeah, she strikes me as very Sarah-esque.
She's the second Mrs. De Winter.
Yeah,
That's like
Mrs.
everybody
De
calls her
Winter.
ma'am or Mrs. De Winter or madam.
Yeah. Hey, don't you think it'd be funny if at one point Maxim was like, "Hey, what's your name?" You
So
literally
funny.
never said.
It's like Maxim's an asshole to start, and then like every scene they have, he seems totally disinterested in her.
Rebecca she was just the best by all accounts. It's like you can't do anything as good as Rebecca used to do it. Oh, that gown? Yeah, Rebecca wore it twice as gracefully, actually.
I guess a romance is blooming between Sarah, as you've called her, and which actually we'll refer to her as for the rest of this episode.
Yeah.
Sarah and Maxim. What
A lot of 1940s ass bullshit.
like what? Like getting married in like 2 weeks?
But also they don't like each other. Like I just hate Like he is rude to her and mean to her at every turn. There's no real flirtatious activity. They just kind of like drive around and hang out, and he's just generally rude, and she likes him for some reason.
Yeah. And their meet cute is like she thinks he's gonna jump off a cliff and she stops him and she's like, God, I kind of think that guy's hot for that. It's like, come on.
But he is though, right? Isn't that kind of what's that's how it's framed? He's gonna
Yeah,
jump off that cliff.
it's like he's so it's almost like his pain, his like barely hidden pain about the tumultuous death of Rebecca. That's what's suggested is like what's attractive about him. Like all his demons are so like are hot.
She just kind of approaches him and says, "Hey," and then it thwarts his attempted suicide, I guess.
Can I say I fucking hate this movie?
Wow.
I think this movie stinks.
So this movie, before we go any further, I should say we're gonna spoil this thing, right?
Yeah,
This is a pretty spoilable movie.
I guess so. Although I found the twist basically uninteresting.
I disagree wholeheartedly.
Okay,
I think
okay.
they were actually riveting.
Oh,
this
really?
movie,
Okay.
yeah, I think this movie kind of sucks for like an hour and 20 minutes, and then it gets fucking nuts.
Yeah, I think the last like 40 minutes are like way more interesting than just Sarah wandering around this giant mansion and
Yeah.
just like the same scenario happening over and over again where it's like, don't go in there, that's Rebecca's, or like you dropped Rebecca's thing, or like it's like who the fuck cares? We get it.
Everything always goes back to Rebecca. Everything is Rebecca this, Rebecca that. There is a staffer. I don't know if she's a maid or an assistant. I don't know what her official title is. But Mrs. Danvers, and she's like obsessed.
She's obsessed, played by Judith Anderson.
Shout out to Judith.
Judith. Hey Judith.
Hey.
The Hitchcock movies I've seen, I like. Actually, I've whatever. I've seen like his later stuff. I haven't seen like so much of his early stuff.
You saw Psycho 2.
Yes, well, actually, Psycho 2 actually rules. He didn't direct it.
Yeah. Right. That was Michael Bay.
No, but when I went on Letterboxd and read like the synopsis for this movie, I was like, oh, and there's like a jealous, obsessed housekeeper. Like that all sounds interesting. And then like Mrs. Danvers like pops up intermittently to be insane, and then she drops back out. Like she doesn't really serve a purpose in the movie other than to be insane.
She sets Sarah up for a lot of bullshit. Like she clearly she hates Sarah. Doesn't even give her a fraction of a chance. As soon as she sets foot in the door, she's like, "You'll never be as good as Rebecca." And the only one thing that she does to quote unquote help her is actually in the guise of setting her up for failure. She's like, "You should wear this dress for Halloween." And she's like, "Oh, that's a great idea." And she does. But it turns out, oh, whoopsies, that was Rebecca's dress, asshole. And now everybody hates you because you're never going to be as good as her.
She says all that verbatim. It's crazy.
She does.
I thought the dress thing was funny because it's like, like, it's just so 40s. It's like,
yeah.
Ms. Danvers is like, hey, Sarah, you know what's hot is if you dressed up like Max's sister. He'd really like that.
So weird.
Like, what? He'd really like that.
That's his sister. No, what is it? His ancestor or something? Or
I thought Mrs. Danvers said it was his Max's sister, but maybe not. Maybe it was like an older ancestor.
Yeah.
In my head, I heard sister. Maybe that's my baggage.
That's on you, dude. That's on you.
And then like Mrs. Danvers at one point like takes. That scene's pretty good, I guess. Mrs. Danvers takes Sarah into Rebecca's room, which has been like preserved.
Yeah.
Since her
beautiful,
death.
Like ocean facing room.
Yeah, like Sarah picks up a brush and then sets it down like 5 inches to the left, and Mrs. Danvers is like, "You moved it," and she puts it back into where it was.
She's obsessive.
And then that scene culminates in Mrs. Danvers trying to get Sarah to jump out the window and kill herself.
Yeah. Oh,
it's crazy.
Yeah.
It was crazy.
That's right. She was like, yeah, maybe you should just jump if you don't think you're good enough, which you're not. So just do it.
Yeah.
Yeah, that is fucking nuts.
The Mrs. Danvers stuff, like, on paper is interesting, but it doesn't culminate in anything except for her burning down the house, which, like, nobody dies anyway, so except her, so who cares?
Can I say what I think makes this movie good?
Yeah, tell me.
So the whole time I'm looking for the cock. I'm looking for the cockness. You know what I mean? Like what makes this an Alfred Hitchcock piece? Because, there's the suspenseful music. The music is great. He brings in these strings, like they'll do a pan over to Rebecca's room and the doors are closed, but like you hear an overlay of these ominous strings.
Mhm.
And the audience knows something's going on, something's up, something's lying beneath the surface. And I'm getting that sense, but I'm just being fed more of just this relationship that I don't like, that I don't think is romantic. I don't think Max is charming or cool or interesting or funny. The characters so far are pretty bland. But then she takes that trip down to the beach and finds the beach shack, and she finds the shack man.
Ben, played by a guy
Ben.
named Leonard Carey.
Lenny.
Lenny.
Yeah, she goes down to this shack, and it turns out that's like the boathouse where Rebecca used to hang out, and she like sailed from there, and then she died in a sailboat accident, and Ben kind of gives her the scoop. But Ben's like kind of like this, he's kind of lurking in there. He's like, what are you doing?
Yeah.
And then things kind of get boring again for a little bit. And then
For another 40 minutes.
40 minutes. You'll love it. You'll love it.
There's
But
5
it
minutes
pays
of
off.
riveting suspense where you're so interested, and then the movie's like, what if we went back to her just kind of wandering around this mansion being like, wow, I'll never live up to Rebecca, and questioning whether like Maxim actually likes her, and it's like, okay, we fucking get it.
There's a lot of that. There's a lot of weird, like, just bad side plots of she breaks the little statuette.
Yeah.
She's got to shove it into the drawer, and it's supposed to be high stakes, but it's really not. It
And
doesn't
who
really
cares, am I
matter.
right?
Who cares, honestly? But you're right. It does kind of meander for another 30, 40 minutes. But
And like,
then,
hold on. And I
Okay.
get, just to address the meandering,
yes.
I get the meandering as a way to like, I mean, Hitchcock is like he's like stretching this like pretty simple premise. Like, what if you married a guy who's like, who you think is still obsessed with his like ex-wife who died like kind of mysteriously? Like, that's a good premise.
Sounds like my life.
He stretches it. We'll talk about that later. He stretches it so. I feel like I remember Quentin Tarantino describing it as like, it's like a rubber band, and it's like stretching it so like as far as you possibly can before it snaps. And that's like what Hitchcock does.
Yeah.
And that's why I think the movie takes so long, because it's like maybe there is like an antagonistic thing to it where like he wants you to be frustrated. Like he's trying to put you in the sort of like really confused, kind of annoyed, frustrated headspace that Sarah is in.
Okay, well, he did it. I'm there,
Yeah, well, the thing is, I don't like that though. Like, I get it in I get it in theory, but I don't like it in execution.
But why we don't like it is because there's no guarantee that it's going to pay off.
That's true. Maybe if I rewatched it and knowing where it was going, I'd be like, oh, this stuff's actually really good.
Yeah, there's no inkling of there are very, very slight inklings of suspense that are kind of laid in throughout, which are nice, but I need a little bit more to really get the sense of my interest and my devotion to this is going to pay off, and I can burn through these minutes where maybe it's rather uninteresting, but the tension's going to build into something that feels cathartic. But I don't really get that guarantee from this movie.
Right. But
the payoff is pretty good in my opinion. I don't know.
It's
culminates,
something, finally.
It happens right after she steps out in the dress for the Halloween party, and everyone's like shocked that she's wearing Rebecca's old dress and whatever.
Yeah.
There's a boat crash off the island, and in exploring that wreckage, they find the wreckage of Rebecca's sailboat that crashed.
Right.
And I'm sitting there thinking, oh, it's gonna just dig up a bunch of old demons for Max, and he's just gonna maybe, I don't know, be generally unenthused with this marriage and call things off, and then the movie's gonna end. But it turns out Max is nervous about the wreckage being discovered because he fucking killed his ex-wife. And you're like, whoa, hold up. and it recontextualizes the whole movie, because you think that deep down this guy's just an asshole who thinks that, Rebecca was so great, quote unquote, to him, but he moves on at the drop of a hat. Like, you find out it's only been a year since she died, and you're like, okay, well, it shouldn't seem that great. It seemed like he wanted to move on. It turns out he did.
Yeah. He
'Cause
hated
turns out-
Rebecca.
yeah, he hated Rebecca. Rebecca sucks, turns out.
Yeah. He didn't kill Rebecca though.
He does.
She fell and like hit, well, I guess like she fell and like hit her head or something, and then like was incapacitated, and then like well, yeah, I guess he does kill her. Then he takes her on a boat and like puts holes in the boat so she'll sink and die. I mean, I guess.
He sets up her death. Like, the boat crash was him setting it up to take blame off of himself.
She falls and hits her head and dies.
Yes, but they have an altercation.
Right. She confronts him because, it wouldn't be a movie from the 1940s if a person wasn't trying to marry their cousin. Rebecca, yeah.
I don't think that's her cousin. So
Okay.
for context, there's a creepy man who keeps coming around the house for
Jack
some reason.
Favel is his name.
Jack Favel. He's kind of just lurking about, and you're like,
Played
who
by
is this
George
guy?
Sanders.
Yeah, and it's very clear that Mrs. Danvers doesn't like him. Sarah meets him for the first time, like he's sneaking out through the window, and he introduces himself as Rebecca's cousin. And I don't think he's actually Rebecca's cousin.
That's a good call.
I think she was just kind of tapping that
Right.
on the side. He was a side piece.
Right. Yeah, because
and then she's pregnant by him.
or that's what he thinks. Right? So what happens
Start
is-
from the beginning.
Start from the beginning.
Start from the fucking beginning.
Sarah goes in. Maxim tells Sarah, our marriage was like a ruse. Rebecca didn't actually love me. She told me she was going to cheat on me and that she wasn't going to be faithful.
Like day one, right? Didn't they
Yeah.
just get married and she was like, actually, now I have your house. Now that I'm part of your life, I'm going to fuck around.
She implies in that final altercation to Maxim that she's pregnant from her not cousin, Favel. She implies
Right.
that, but it ends up not being true.
I thought she was, but she saw a doctor because she was, no.
Yeah.
Then
So here's the turn. So Rebecca tells Max, I'm pregnant because and it's Favel's baby, and we're gonna take all of Manderley, and we're gonna leave you with nothing,
Yeah,
you punk ass loser.
yeah,
And
she's like, my baby's gonna gank that.
yeah, like she's trying to go, but the reason she's doing all this is she's trying to goad Max into like killing her. Because we later find out Rebecca actually has cancer and is already dying. And her final like wish for her death is to just fuck Max over so badly, kind of for no reason.
Yeah, you know what? I didn't even really put that together, but yeah, that's really just terrible.
Like for what? We never find out why. Like, do we find out why she hates Max so much, other than like she's just sort of like this like evil like ice goddess?
So the interesting thing is that
She's a death queen.
we hear about this scenario from Maxim himself, so maybe there's more to it than he lets on. Maybe
Right,
he's
right.
painting himself as a bit of a victim, but from his
Right.
perspective, it's kind of love at first sight with him and Rebecca. They meet, they get married, and then instantly she hates
She's
him
like
now.
She's like in a chair. She's like,
Yeah, she spins around slowly.
you stupid fool.
You stupid, stupid man. I have your house now.
Yeah, so in that final confrontation, I think Rebecca's trying to get Max to kill her, but he's not
To just
doing
fuck
it.
him over forever for
Yeah, and then
reasons
she,
unknown.
then of course she accidentally trips and falls, hits her head, and like dies. And then I think Max, because he thinks he knows he'll probably be framed, like he'll be like, oh, people will think I did this. He takes her onto a boat and sinks the boat, so her body will sink. And then when I don't know how he did this. There was like another body that he identified as Rebecca's.
Yeah, he had a
Who's it?
second
Who is
body.
that?
No one knows.
Where'd they
That's
come
not
from?
explained. Who's that person? He just placed a body.
That's what I mean. Like, I think it's interesting. It's more interesting than what came before, but I still think like as like I don't know. It's just like it's too like
It's too
it's not
hairy.
clean.
Yeah.
It's very naughty in a way that like you're like, all right, this is this is too much. There's too many variables here that like I don't know are a little bit. I could poke holes in these.
The more we break it down, the less sense it makes. Truly,
It is like more riveting though than what came before.
at the time of watching it though, like I had to stand up and walk around for a bit. I was like, oh,
Right, with your hands on your hips, just pacing.
yeah. But yeah, sure. The more, I mean, with anything, the more you think about it and analyze it, the less sense it's gonna make. But
Yeah.
it definitely rings true here because there's some shit going on that's. I feel like Hitchcock just strung it together and was like, yeah, this is how it's gonna be, folks.
Yeah,
Give me the ask.
right. Yeah, so after after like Max admits all this to Sarah, uh the police start questioning because they find Rebecca's body, obviously, like you said, and then the police start questioning, like, hey,
Hey, pal.
what's the
Sums
deal
up.
with this? And then Favell tries to, it's so funny because Favell tries to blackmail Max. He's like, I have this letter, like, because the police are kind of leaning to like it was a suicide on Rebecca's part, like she sank the boat on purpose to kill herself. Um, and Favell goes to Max and is like, I have written proof, a letter from her that proves that she wasn't suicidal. And like he reads the letter and it's like, she's not like, I'm
No.
it's really like going to the store today. I'll see you later. And it's like, all right, that's not like it's not like
airtight.
bulletproof,
Yeah.
airtight proof. But he's like, I'm gonna frame Max for her, like for killing. Like I'm gonna tell people that you killed her, and I have proof. And then it's so funny because Max immediately goes to like the local sheriff and is like, hey, this guy's trying to blackmail me.
Well, Favell is
It's
like,
so funny.
he's so Machiavellian because like he kind of takes charge of this. All of a sudden, it seems as if he's running the investigation. He's like, I'll ask the questions here, and the police investigator's like, no, I'm gonna ask them. You just fucking
Sit
shut up.
down.
They shouldn't even be here, dude.
Yeah.
Yeah, so his plot sort of goes awry.
Why do they go to the doctor? I forget.
Jack Favell has the assumption that she was pregnant.
Which would prove what? That she didn't want to kill herself? Favela just comes out looking so stupid in all this. It's kind of funny. The doctor's like, I think like he doesn't have her name down or something. Like didn't she go by a different name with the
She
doctor?
goes by Danvers,
okay.
the house staffer,
Right.
who's like weirdly obsessed with her.
Yeah. Yeah, and he's like, oh, yeah, no, she wasn't pregnant. She had cancer and it was terminal, so
So bye.
Favela's like,
So fucking credits, I guess.
yeah, and then it's like, the police are like, oh yeah, so that makes sense why she would take her own life because she was gonna die anyway.
And then it starts to seem like it's meandering again, and I'm like, all right, I need one more little wrench into this whole operation. And we do get it in the sense that they arrive back at Manderley, the house, and it is in fuego, my friends.
It is
fully
absolute flames. It
just
is lit as
engulfed.
fuck.
Yeah. Not in the way you would like, because it is it turns out Mrs. Danvers kind of just lit the thing ablaze, baby.
Why did she do that? Is it just Rebecca's body being found like sort of like completely triggered her into like a frenzy?
You know what? No, it's because she doesn't think that anyone deserves to have the house. I think she's kind of just like sick of Sarah, weirdly enough.
She's
who's
like
done
I
nothing
guess
wrong.
like yeah, I guess once Sarah enters the picture, it's the subplot with Mrs. Danvers is her just slowly losing her mind.
I think she doesn't like that Rebecca's reputation is being tarnished because now it's come forth that she's an adulteress. Adulteress?
Right.
I think I might have just invented
I think
that
that's
word, but
right.
I'm going to stick with that because that's
I mean, I guess you could say adulterer, but yeah,
she's an adulteress.
Adulteress.
Sure,
Under
why not?
duress.
Under duress for sure. Yeah, she kind of snaps. I mean, I guess it shouldn't really seem like she had it all there to begin with, but someone sets her off and she sets it off. And then that's the
That's
end,
the
right?
end.
Yeah.
Miss Danvers dies and roll credits.
Even those twists, the more we break it down, the more I'm like, what?
What's crazy though is this movie is like a classic. Like people like are like 5 stars. This movie's a masterpiece. I'm like, is it?
But you know
That
what? I
like
mean, watching it, it was great. But now thinking about it, I'm a little bit like, what was that all for?
I don't know, man. I know it was a different time and like sometimes you do have to watch movies within like the context of their time in order to like enjoy them because otherwise you're just gonna be like poking holes in it. It's like why
Yeah.
aren't there iPhones?
And why aren't there?
Yeah, I was saying that the whole time. Sorry, I'm gonna throw up.
The
But
whole time I'm cursing up a storm at Hitchcock. I'm thinking this guy is not what he's cracked up to be. This ain't it, Chief. And then he proved me wrong because he came out with the twist, and I was like, ooh, okay, now this is a banger of a film. And then in retrospect, I gotta fucking lay it into this asshole again because this is not his shit. This is based on a book, correct?
yeah, by Daphne du Maurier.
So what's he coming to the table with? What's Al ponying up? Like we got some great visuals. We got some cool little like camera sequences and like
Yeah.
like little models and stuff. I love that shit.
The movie's well made. I'll
Yeah.
say that.
Yeah,
It's
well,
well
it's
made.
very well made. But story-wise, like that's not he didn't write this, right? I mean, I guess
No.
he wrote it for the screen, but this is not his story.
Yeah.
And I think that's some points off. I apologize. You know, I don't apologize. I take that back.
Don't apologize for anybody ever.
Sorry.
I feel like this movie makes a lot of decisions for the sake of the mystery of like Rebecca as like a figure that don't really hold up to like logic when you like break them down by the end of the movie. The only thing I could say about Max is that the reason he acts the way he does is he's an asshole. I mean, I guess like I don't know. I guess he's scared of being found out and like going to jail. Like he's scared of being accused of murdering Rebecca and like whatever that's secret, but I don't know.
Well, you know what? It kind of explains his previously inexplicable character choices. Because at first you get the impression like, what is this guy doing? Like you can tell he's still obsessed with Rebecca, but looking back, I think he was just so ready to move on and move past this point of his life.
Yeah.
Clearly it's a dark time for him. He thinks that, oh, I've met this nameless person we're just gonna call Sarah. I've met this person. She seems nice. Maybe she's my ticket to forgetting my dark past.
And maybe the reason he's rude is because maybe he's like, is this nameless woman gonna be as tyrannical as Rebecca was? You know what I mean? Like maybe there was like fear there.
Yeah, maybe he's got the gates up, but he also says some questionable shit. Like they're out to like if I was ever wait, what is it he says? If I ever told a dinner date to quote unquote eat it up like a good girl, I would be put on a watch list. That was despicable that he said that. That was horrible.
A picture with your face on it is hanging up in every business in America. Don't
Yeah.
serve this man.
Yeah, there's a bounty on your ass for sure.
Now eat it up like a good girl.
He also says like there's an age difference like there is in all these 40s ass movies.
Yeah, it
When
seems
he's
like she's like in her early 20s maybe, and he's like
Yeah.
late 30s or something.
And he's like, hey, never be 36, by the way. It's like, oh. Why?
Okay.
It seems pretty problematic, actually.
Really quick, what do you think of that subplot? It's not really a subplot. It's just sort of like Max's like friends come and visit and they're like kind of rude to Sarah the whole time.
It's so bad. It's so painstaking.
boring.
It sucks. Giles is terrible. Giles asks a question about, he's like, oh, I hope your new wife is not into sailing. Oopsies. It's like, yeah, dude, Rebecca's dead because she drowned in a boat accident.
It's like you can't remember-
fucking asshole.
Can't remember that much not to say. It's like one thing. Avoid it talking about sailing.
Oh, I must have slipped my tongue yet again, Martha. Whatever the fuck their sister's name is. Yeah, there's not really a likable person in this movie, I will say.
I mean, I like Sarah. I just think like
Yeah, I do like Sarah,
there's
actually.
not like I think it's a good performance, but like she's not really given much to play other than just like really confused
Yeah, and
and
she's
like on
always
edge.
confused. Like, I feel bad for her.
Yeah.
I don't really like. She's not a hero. She's just shit just keeps happening to her. She's like
Yeah.
an Oliver.
Yeah. Yeah. She's absolutely an Oliver.
This is one of those movies where if I were to rewatch it, I don't know if it would have the same impact because the twists were so good and they did kind of reel me in. And I think they were substantial because they recontextualize certain characters' behaviors throughout the movie, which I thought was a really cool effect.
Yeah.
But I wonder
Yeah.
if not having that punch the second time around, if I think it would be as good. Because ultimately, I do think this is a good movie.
Okay. How many stars would you give it?
Frankly, that's none of your goddamn business.
Fine. You're actually being kind of
Just
cagey like Max.
just say that. Let's just say that I would recommend this to somebody.
Okay.
I would recommend watching this.
I may
I don't
watch
know if
it.
I really. I was gonna say I don't know if I would watch this again.
I may watch it again just to be like, do I actually hate this? It might not be for a few years though.
Come back to us in a few years.
I don't think I would recommend it to somebody.
I would.
Would
The twists are fun.
I thought it stunk, but I think there's good stuff about it. I don't think it's definitely not the worst movie I've seen. It's not even the worst movie we've covered on this show by
No.
far. Oliver worse. Oliver way worse.
Oliver's worse than this, yeah. Oliver's not even
Yeah.
a movie, frankly.
No, Oliver's not even a movie.
There's some striking shots in this.
Mhm.
The light from the projector on, like, light on faces. Hitchcock
Yeah.
is really good with light.
Yeah.
Hitchcock fucking loves the sun, dude.
He like stared at that thing forever.
And it shows. It really
Yeah.
does. Respect the cock.
Would you like to hear the other best picture nominees for the year of our Lord 1941?
Yeah, what are they cooking up? What are they cooking up in this time period?
So next, obviously Rebecca wins. Next up, we have All This and Heaven too.
It's too much.
When lovely and virtuous governess Henriette de Luzy comes to educate the children of the debonair Duce de Praslin, a royal
Crushing it.
subject to King Louise Philippe, and the husband of the volatile and obsessive Duchess de Praslin, she instantly incurs the wrath of her mistress. This sentence is too long. Who is insanely jealous of anyone who comes near her estranged husband.
Take it from the top.
Yeah,
Run
what?
It back. Run it back.
All right.
Because I didn't hear a word you said.
Governess
Yes.
Henriette.
Sure.
It seems like she's like a what's that word called when you're teaching children stuff, but it's like an old-fashioned word?
A teacher.
An au pair.
Oh, wow.
You're
good
kind of like
pull.
a yeah.
Yeah.
You're like a babysitter, but also a teacher, kind of. I think that's kind of what an au pair is.
Yeah.
Let's just that's not what it says she is. Let's just say she's an au pair. Henriette is an au pair.
Okay. We just made that up.
We just made it up. To the children of God, this is like fucking parsing.
We got it. This is entry one, dude. We gotta pull it together, man.
I just can't make heads or tails of this. I truly can't. Henriette comes, so she comes. Henriette de Luzy comes. I'm just gonna read it. Henriette de Luzy comes to educate the children of the debonair Duce de Praslin,
Okay.
a royal subject to King Louis Philippe, and the husband of the volatile and obsessive Duchess de Praslin. So Henriette is educating the children of Duce de Praslin, who is a royal subject to the king.
Right.
And his wife, Duce de Praslin's wife, is this Duchess, right?
Yeah. The Deuce and the Duchess.
Yes, Deuce and the Duchess. Henriette, while she's there,
She's
educating
the au
these
pair.
stupid Henriette, the au pair, who's educating these stupid kids. She she incurs the wrath of her mistress, the Duchess's mistress.
No, the
The
Deuce's
husband's
mistress.
mistress?
Yeah,
It
the
says her
Duchess is
mistress,
neat.
man.
Okay, so
Who is
she has a
ins
mistress.
who is insanely jealous of anyone who comes near her estranged husband.
Wait,
Though she saves the Duchess's little son from a near-death illness and warms herself to all the children, she, I assume they mean Henriette, is nevertheless dismissed by the vengeful Duchess. Meanwhile, the attraction between the Duke and Henriette
there's
continues to
more.
and Henriette continues to grow, eventually leading to tragedy. You got that squared yet?
Wait, so the mistress has a husband, but is the mistress the Duchess?
I don't know, man. This might just be bad letterboxed copy. I don't know if. Give me one sec. Keep this all in. Who cares?
So the Duchess has a mistress, and the mistress hates
See what
the au
IMDb
pair.
says.
But the au pair is interested in the Deuce.
The IMDb synopsis is way shorter. A duchess's irrational behavior toward her children's governess triggers tragic events that will change her family's lives forever. Much easier to. Should have just went with that.
I guess it's also too vague though.
Yeah, it sounds. Look, it's probably bad. I hate to.
I'm never gonna watch this in all my days.
I hate to do that.
I'm confused at the synopsis, so
It's probably bad.
there's truly no hope for me.
Yeah. All right. This is crazy if true.
Is the name of a film?
No. Next up, we have Foreign Correspondent. Another Hitchcock movie. He had two movies
Oh.
nominated for Best Picture.
Damn, son.
This one I hear is also very good. American crime reporter John Jones, very
Cool name.
regular name, is reassigned to Europe as a foreign correspondent to cover the imminent war. When he walks into the middle of an assassination and stumbles on a spy ring, he seeks help from a beautiful politician's daughter and an urbane English journalist to uncover the truth. Sounds pretty good.
Yeah.
Sounds
There's
interesting.
a lot of intrigue, a little bit of
Yeah.
espionage. I
It's
can
a
get behind
clean-
it.
It's a clean 2 hours.
But what does the Duchess's mistress think about it all?
What does the Duke who's in love with the Duchess's au pair think about it?
What kingdom is the protagonist fall under? Is it Louis Philippe?
Next up, we have The Grapes of Wrath, directed by John Ford, who won Best Director this year for this film. Tom Joad returns to his home after a jail sentence.
Joad?
Joad.
Joad? J-O-D?
Joad. Joad.
Okay. Tom Joad. Okay.
Played by, what's his name?
Laurence Olivier.
Not that man. Henry Fonda.
Oh.
Tom Joad returns to his home after a jail sentence to find his family kicked out of their farm due to foreclosure. He catches up with them on his uncle's farm and joins them the next day as they head for California and a new life. Hopefully.
Ooh.
Next up, we have The Great Dictator, the Charlie Chaplin film. Dictator Adnoid Hinkle.
Oh, like a Adolf Hitler
Yeah.
type of guy?
Yeah. Tries to expand
Gotcha.
his empire while a poor Jewish barber tries to avoid persecution from Hinkle's regime. Charlie Chaplin plays both roles. He plays the barber and he plays the dictator.
The original Tyler Perry.
Well, actually, Tyler Perry wanted Chaplin for Medea Goes to Halloween, but
Turns out he'd already been dead for 45 years.
yeah, Tyler Perry really didn't check his sources on that
Tyler
one.
Perry was like, his agent still hasn't gotten back to me. He was just really incensed about it.
Yeah, God, there's so many movies not this year. We're halfway through.
Is it every other year? Like sometimes there's 2, sometimes there's 100.
Yeah, it's crazy.
All right, bang him out.
Yeah, let's bang them out. Next up, we have Kitty Foyle.
Ew.
Ever heard of it?
No.
Directed by Sam Wood. Kitty Foyle, a hardworking white-collar girl from a Philadelphia, Pennsylvania low middle-class family, meets and falls in love with young socialite Win Strafford, but his family is against her. Kind of class.
Damn, that sucks.
Class stuff going on.
Okay. Why
Who
is the family
cares?
against her?
Yeah, I guess because like, oh, you grew up middle class. You're poor to us,
Oh, okay, got it.
even though you lived very comfortably. Next up, we have The Letter, directed by William Wyler. Again,
Wow.
he has a movie nominated every year. After a woman shoots a man to death, a damning letter she wrote raises suspicions. Very simple. Probably kind
Okay.
of good. I like William Wyler, I think.
Yeah.
The Long Voyage Home is next up, directed by John Ford. Again, we have two guys directing two Best Picture nominees.
Damn.
I a little bit think they probably just should have chosen one each and called it a day, so I didn't have to read all of them. The crew of the merchant ship Glencairn hoped to survive a transatlantic crossing during World War II,
That's it?
adapted from four Eugene O'Neill one-act plays.
Ah, you didn't even do this. You didn't even do this shit.
Fucking hate this podcast. Our Town. Why am I'm reading all these? Our Town, directed by Sam Wood. So we have three directors who directed two Best Picture winners or nominees each this
Wait,
year.
so Sam Wood's here twice?
Yeah, I don't remember what other fucking movie he made, but
Was it like
wasn't
a
it All This in
two-movie
Heaven
limit or
too,
something?
maybe? Or maybe it was Kitty Foyle.
God, the riveting kitty foil.
Run back the tape and make sure I said Sam Wood twice.
Okay.
This is based on the play by I forget his name. It's a very famous play.
Moving on.
Change comes slowly to a small New Hampshire town in the early 20th century. We see birth, life, and death in this small community. It sounds good. I have wanted to read the play.
I'll pass on that.
My SO is giving it the thumbs down.
Oh, okay. Tough crowd.
And finally, we come to the end. We have a George Cucker joint.
Yes.
He's back, baby.
Let's go.
The Philadelphia Story, a famous movie with James Stewart and Cary Grant, Katharine Hepburn. When a rich woman's ex-husband and a tabloid-type reporter turn up just before her planned remarriage, she begins to learn the truth about herself in a saucy little threesome, sexy sort of way.
Wait, what?
No,
No,
I made that part up. Those are the nominees.
Cucker did which
Jesus
other movie?
Christ. I want to say Along Came Polly.
Yeah, it's sounding a little bit like Along Came Polly. When are we doing that one?
Do you think Rebecca's Best Picture worthy?
Yeah, it's got juice to it. It's definitely memorable. It'll stick with me.
I guess in 1940, I would say it's Best Picture worthy. By my standards today, as a 21st century little guy,
Which you
nah.
are. All right, well, it's not going up against
Green
fucking...
Book, this is not.
No, it really isn't, actually. I mean, it's not going up against fucking Get Out, I guess.
Yeah, certainly not. Alfred Hitchcock couldn't even imagine Get Out.
They should have... The Academy should do... No, he wouldn't be, by the way. But the Academy should do like a best of. They should have like a March movie madness.
That's good. I like
And
that.
hell, have us on a panel or something. I mean, we've
At this point,
been
we're
doing
kind
this.
we're becoming experts on the subject of Best Pictures.
I would hesitate to say that, but yeah, have us on.
Have us on, please.
So this brings me to a segment called People's Review, where I found some reviews on the internet about Rebecca. The movie, not the person. I'm sure the person is lovely.
Well,
First glance, a lot of shit about Mrs. Danvers being lesbian.
yeah, there's like queer readings of this movie, I feel, which makes sense. She's like obsessed, and it's like, oh, obviously Mrs. Danvers was in love with Rebecca, right?
That's not explicit, right? Like
No.
Okay, because I felt like I would maybe have missed something.
Yeah, no. I don't think, honestly, I think back then you couldn't make it like they wouldn't have released it if that was explicit, which is really cool.
Give me the name of somebody Emile Zola thinks is cool.
Fucking Marcel Proust.
Marcel Proust says, Mrs. De Winter was such a wuss. Oh, 2 stars. Mrs. De Winter was such a wuss that she almost let herself be run mad by an obsessive, domineering housekeeper and her husband's ex-wife's pervy cousin. What a weakling.
Yeah.
Yeah, I maybe she's a bit of a weakling, but she's going through it. Okay, let's.
No, actually, I do think though her character is set up like in such a way in the beginning that's like you never know anything about her, but like I do think the performance and just like the decisions she makes early on by like marrying Max after so little time, although even though it's the 40s,
Yeah.
like it really says a lot about like she seems like in a fragile place, though we don't know why. Like she seems like she's like,
Oh, we do
I don't
know
know.
why. She's an orphan. She's a recent orphan, actually. She lost both of her parents. Her father when she was young. Her mother, I think, last year, at
Oh
least prior
yeah,
to the
that's
start of the
right. That's right.
film.
That's right. That's right. I
So
forgot about
she's
that.
really, I mean, she's still a young person. She's really still finding herself.
Yeah, yeah.
So I think she sees in Maxim a kind of stability.
Right, right. Totally.
He doesn't seem to treat her very well,
No, he's good.
but no, he's fantastic.
He hates it. He hates his first wife, man.
That's
That's what more can you
that's-
ask for?
that's positive. Give me the name of someone that Emile Zola thinks is pretty lame.
Um,
You can
Michael
make someone up.
Pence.
Michael Pence?
Yeah, I don't think Zola would have liked Pence.
Probably not. No.
No, I don't think so.
I mean, most people don't. So
Is that too
I'm
easy? Should I
sure-
say like DeSantis or something?
Let's say Ron DeSantis because he just dropped out.
Yeah, go fuck yourself, Ron.
Yeah, go fuck yourself, Ron. 4.5 stars. Films used to do this thing where they made you think one thing was going to happen, but instead something completely unexpected happens. Amazing. They should bring that back.
You know, that is a good point. I do think like movies are such like a machine now that like movies have been getting made for like over 100 years that like the
Yeah.
conventions are established. That like sometimes when you watch older movies, like people are taking like these weird narrative risks and like it might come out a little bit awkward, but it's like way more interesting than something that might get made today. Not everything, obviously there's exception, but like I just mean like as like, a movie up for Best Picture. Like how many movies up for Best Picture are like this kind of weird?
When it comes to my criteria for judging how I feel about a movie, I mean, not even, no. Number one has to be I want to be surprised. I have this terrible habit of trying to be one or two steps ahead of the filmmakers. I want to be able to guess what's going to happen. But deep down, I really don't. You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
Yeah.
Deep down, I want to be surprised. And Rebecca is surprising.
Yeah.
And I think that has high value.
Yeah.
That's all I got.
Good app.
Yeah.
Next week we're talking 2007 Best Picture winner, 2006 Best Picture winner, Crash.
Isn't that Dave Matthews song?
That's Crash Into Me. That song's good. That song is used so beautifully in Lady Bird.
Which we're not watching.
Crash, 2005 Best Picture winner. I looked it up. Directed by Paul Haggis,
I
who
guess.
weirdly is like a co-writer on like the last like 10 to 15 James Bond movies. Like he's just like a guy they always bring in to like touch up a James Bond script.
Seems fitting.
So he directed this movie about racial tension in LA, and boy, does it probably not age well. I've seen it. I've seen it before. I saw it once. I think I saw it when I was young enough to be like, wow, I didn't know you could make a movie like this. But I think now that I'm gonna watch it again and be like, I can't believe they made a movie like this.
Okay, perfect. Can't wait.
Yeah. So look forward to that. In the meantime, dye a hot dog a different color.
Oh, I like that.
Stick some stick like some pipe cleaner.
Q-tips? Oh,
Yeah,
pipe
no,
cleaner.
like pipe cleaner guys on the sides. Put googly eyes on it, and introduce them to your parents when you see them next.
This is my fiance.
Yeah, introduce them as your fiance.
Let's just see how they react. Send
See
us
if
your
they-
live parents' reactions.
If you're excommunicated, that gets you a little guest spot on the show.
That's right.
See ya, wieners.
Adios.
1, 2, 3, 4. These boys only want the best stuff. They want the cream of the crop. They don't want none of that Michael Bay shit. They want the shit that bops. Oscar bait, black and white. Maybe something French. If it's got more than one explosion, honey, put that shit on the bench. Oscar wieners. Oscar wieners. Oscar wieners. These boys are the Oscar wieners. Oscar wieners.
By the way, this is how I wave now. Just
Ugh, so
spread.
bad. So bad.
Bye bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye bye.